Well, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being with us on another episode for the Tiny Rooms podcast. We have been having so much fun with you. Once again, we've got a very exciting guest. We've got Gerhard in the tiny room with me, and he is a SME growth facilitator and a mindfulness champion or ambassador or coach, if you can call it that. He's just somebody that I am very blessed to have in my life. We've gotten to know each other quite a bit over the last couple of months. And I know what he brings today is going to be rich. It's going to be quite comprehensive and quite a lot of detail. So stay tuned. Make sure that you've got all eyes peeled, you've got your listening ears on and taking notes, because leaders take notes. And I think that I'm going to learn a lot from this episode today. So Gerhard, thank you so much for joining us in the tiny room.
Thanks for having me. It's literally a tiny room, but I like it.
It's literally, we had a client come in actually this week, and it was so funny. He came through and he said to our counselor, "Oh, it's literally a tiny room," and we're like, "That's us. We're literal in everything that we do." But just maybe give our viewers a little bit of background on what is an SME growth facilitator, because I know SME stands for small to medium-sized business or enterprise. So, what does this growth facilitator portion of that entail? What does it mean?
I think in layman's terms, it is somebody that potentially has the time and the capacity to look at trends that are happening in the market, and they can pass on some of these ideas to the SMEs, and they can use those ideas to grow. Now, most people would think, yeah, but the retail business owner can do it themselves.
Yeah.
But once you start to put yourself on their side of the fence, you realize that these guys are extremely busy.
Yeah.
It's tough out there. People are struggling. Even though it might look like they are doing well, it's tough. And having that support in a growth facilitator that can give some ideas, and then obviously one of the products that we do is we provide them with the capital for the idea as well. So we don't just come with the solution, we've come with the means to implement the solution.
The money to back the words, you know?
Exactly. Though we never talk about the money. The money is only once they bring it up and say, money is a stumbling block.
Okay.
So we pride ourselves in giving the ideas, not expecting the business in return. If you want to use us, great, but if we added value, we feel that we've done our part, because there's so many products that we've got in our bouquet of offerings that we know somewhere down the line, even if sometimes I have to wait 4 or 5 years, which I have.
Oh my goodness!
For business.
Patience, eh?
But again, the dedication and the persistence is something that they respect.
And the consistency.
Because
I know, you just in yourself are a very consistent person, and me being in business, it's probably what sets the tiny room apart, and my other businesses that I have going, but especially with the tiny room, it's the consistency. You know, behind the scenes it's not that easy, and I think having support, we've been chatting about it, that I say it a lot, it takes a village to raise not only a child, because we've got tweens and teens that come through our therapy and counseling processes, and having a mental health practitioner in that village is helpful. But when it comes to business and me raising our businesses and being an entrepreneur in this space of mental health, I just need that support. I mean, iron sharpens iron. We need to kind of flow those ideas, brainstorm, and also just have somebody to lean on. And I just love the fact that you are that person that does that for many businesses. Now, when it comes to the mindfulness championing and being a mindfulness champion, what does that mean?
It means a lot of things.
I was going to say it's quite contrasting to the whole growth facilitator, but not at the same time.
Yeah, I think where my benefit lies for the SMEs out there is that I come from a place of no retail background. Now, although I've been in this industry now for almost 9 years, before that I was in the mining industry, before that FMCG, before that I was in the Navy as well. So quite a diverse background. So I think the fact that I didn't come with a preconceived idea of what a retail business owner is, because I was one.
Yeah.
I think they appreciate that. But I'm quite an empathetic person, so I like to put myself in someone else's shoes.
Yeah.
Now, it's very easy to drive past a garage and see how busy it is and thinking this guy's making a lot of money. Once you're on that side of the fence and you realize how tight their margins are, you start respecting that this guy is going through a difficult stage of his business.
Yeah.
And it's just getting tougher. So, although I'm a growth facilitator, layman's terms, just giving somebody some ideas where they can save money or make more money, I do believe in people being mentally healthy that they can see these ideas clearly, implement it accurately
Spot
and
on.
effectively, and then also share that with the network.
Yeah.
So that's something that we do on a regular basis. So for me, a mental champion is, listen, yeah, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
I appreciate what you're going through. Let's unpack it a little bit, and then wherever I can, I introduce them to strategic partners,
Yeah.
whether on the business side or on the mental health side.
Yeah.
Go and chat to somebody. We're all here trying to achieve the same thing. Let's all
I absolutely love
work
it.
together.
It literally is merging my life on both ends, being a mental health care practitioner and being an entrepreneur, investor, enjoying the whole, I gamify a lot of my business adventures because I don't want it to be too stressful, and I do bring a lot of people into that support system, and we'll talk a bit more about that when it comes to having the support system for this. But it's just, this whole episode is just merging both of that together, and I want to draw out a little bit more the mental health side a little bit later, but I do want to get into some of the other points that you wanted to unpack, and they're quite weighted, and I want to give it as much time as possible. But the first one that you were speaking into is the whole financial side of an SME, and I don't know how you want to unpack it when it comes to having structures in place and systems in place. I know your first point that you sent through to us, it's a lot of information that I still need to learn, and I don't know if you want to kind of introduce us, because you will come back again for another episode, so we can kind of scratch the surface on what were you speaking into when it comes to promoting sort of wise financial structures or systems, or that whole bottom line that you said is quite stressful for owners, that it might look great on the outside. Like, a lot of people think the tiny room's doing really well, and we really are, but we have to constantly think of whatever we're going to invest our money into, what are we going to get in as a return? Is this a good investment right now into the business? Should we hold back for a couple of months? We're still new, we're going for a little while, but not as long as other people, to make those big financial risks, to see the business go to the next level. And private practice, by the way, is the business, in case anybody's ever told you otherwise. But maybe just speaking to that, I don't know how you want to unpack it. I'm just kind of throwing it out there, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, so please stop me if I talk too
No,
much.
I will.
I'm quite passionate about this, and I think that will show itself throughout the interview. Again, let's try and put it in layman's terms, because as much as I'm a growth facilitator, with my history with the company that I work for, I've got quite vast knowledge on payment mechanisms. Now, we are all used to just walking into a shop and then buying bread and milk, and we're either paying with our card or with cold hard cash. But all of those transactions comes at a cost, and it's literally cents and small percentages.
Yeah.
Now, in your world, paying 100 Rand for bread and milk, for argument's sake, you don't feel that cost associated with it, but the retailer does. And depending on what mechanism you use, whether it's cash or a debit card or a credit card or a SnapScan or a Zapper, these new type of technologies that's come forth, there's a cost associated with it. Now, there might be ease of payment for the consumer, but that's directly linked to the cost for the merchant, which is the business owner. So most business owners would rather prefer cash because it's cheaper to process, but then that comes with a lot of risk.
Yes.
Unfortunately, with where we find ourselves in post-COVID, a lot of consumers, which is your daily citizens, they are dipping into their credit cards, which comes at a higher cost. And I don't want to talk and get technical with numbers, but a credit card transaction will be double the cost compared to a debit card transaction.
Sure.
Now, these small percentages can make or break a business, and that's where we come in. So, although my focus is growth, which is providing capital to SMEs so they can grow, and we'll expand on that offering a little bit later. We also do cash management systems and solutions. We do card processing. We do value-added services, which is your airtime, electricity, cross-border payments. You can pay your DSTV account, whatever you want to do. But all of these payment mechanisms comes at a cost. Now, the merchant needs to accommodate for every consumer that walks in, because they can't show anybody away. Although if you go to some of the clients in Cape Town, they are cashless, and that's slowly but surely starting to become a trend. Not as much in South Africa as it is overseas.
Okay.
But we then unpack these solutions, and there it's important that a business owner evaluates the people that are giving them advice. Now, most people probably have the best intention, but they also want the business.
Yeah.
Where I think somebody that's sincere, and in Cape Town this is a difficult market to crack, and I always said it was difficult for me to get into the click, but once I got into the click started working for me.
Okay.
Because the trust
well done for getting into the click.
So yeah, if you want to start a business in
It's very tough for my
Cape,
German friends. They're not getting in the click yet, but they'll get there.
Don't give up yet. So we evaluate, and I know it sounds quite simple. Okay, well, this business owner is paying 50 cents per 100 rand that they take into their business, but along with that comes stuff like insurance costs.
Yeah.
Cash and transit costs if they are processing in cash. How are they collecting this cash? Is it a manual safe? Is it an electronic drop safe?
Yeah.
Are they filling up their ATM? So there's all of these intricacies where the retailer or the business owner doesn't always have the capacity to unpack all of that.
Yep.
And having somebody in your corner that can go and do that while you're running your business, come back with a complete proposal cost analysis, saying, listen here, option A is the best because of price, option B is the best because of safety and security, etc.
Love it.
So we pride ourselves in being more of a consultant than an actual service provider.
Yeah.
Because we want the business owner to make up their own mind, but we want to make sure that they make informed decisions so that whichever option they choose, they knew that that was potentially the best option to think of. So these services and solutions need to be evaluated on a regular basis, because option A might be the best now, but 12 months from now they've managed to grow aggressively.
Even 6 months maybe.
Maybe in 6 months. I mean, I don't know how many people are dabbling in AI, but there's so many advancements that...
I am a little bit. Gotta be honest with you.
One of these days, 6 months is going to be 6 weeks.
It's crazy, it's
so
true.
You need to evaluate that on a continuous basis and make sure that you are giving, at the end of the day, doing yourself justice as a business owner, making sure your overhead stays as little as possible, because that has a direct effect on your bottom line. But you also want to be more cost competitive, so that if you are saving more money, you can put all of that back in your pocket. But what the clever retailers are doing is they are potentially upping their rewards program, running more specials, implementing, and we'll get to that a little bit later, implementing new types of technology that potentially attracts more feet to their store or saves them on overheads and other avenues of the business. So gone are the days of making a lot of money and going to Hartenbos and having a lot of day. Now it is, listen here, I'm making extra money. How can I purposefully reinvest this into my business?
Yes.
Or potentially diversify into other avenues, other industries.
Love it.
And these
we can talk forever about this. I'm like, stop it, because now you're going down rabbit holes, and I'm like, yes, let's talk about that. But you spot on when it comes to, and we're speaking mainly in this episode, into clients that come through who are entrepreneurs, and we have quite a few, because I myself am very passionate about it, being an entrepreneur, but also, understanding the mental health implications, coming into a business, being foggy, like you said, the clarity earlier, and vice versa. Your business can be going great, and you are maybe feeling restricted in certain areas because not all the corners of your mind has been explored. There's blind spots, there's gaps. With our therapy process, we've got performance therapy, which we can get into a bit more detail in another video. But we provide performance therapy to a lot of our entrepreneurial corporate clients who are either high up in the finance department or are running high level businesses. But me listening to you talking about diversifying and investing money back into your business and the financial implications on the back end, because a lot of clients that comes through a private practice, and we're a group practice now, which is awesome, because we've got a counselor and myself who's the therapist and our intern, we are very competitive in our pricing because we keep our overheads so low, and we're constantly looking at what system do we have in place that is not constantly having us dish out money, and keeping it very streamlined. And I'm just thinking, for example, that Yoko machine that we have, yes, it's taking some percentage every time we use it, but at the same time, it's really saving me a lot on admin. And that admin was keeping me away from doing more sessions. And so the more sessions I do, the more people I get to help. And the more income we make to then take an intern on, to then expand, whatever we need to do. So I love the fact that you also think in systems and you produce an option or two systematically, you know, looking at all those details, because I really feel like the devil's in the details.
Exactly.
So just moving on from the financial side, and obviously there's a lot more that we can get into there, and hopefully it was kind of the tip of the iceberg, but we'll get into the iceberg in a different episode. But going into the and I don't know if you want to maybe speak into this, just before we continue, I feel like we need to chat a little bit about what's your thoughts, because I'm seeing this a lot lately in some of our clients coming through who run businesses, who have grown up in a family who maybe did not impart a lot of financial literacy, didn't have the best examples ever on handling finances. And yes, you can go get a degree and maybe there's some financial input or some learning along the way, but even with the degrees that I did, they didn't speak to me about finances, and I didn't have the best upbringing ever when it came to financial literacy. Debt was the way to go, and I think still debt is the way to go for a lot of people in South Africa. Let's keep it in our context. But what is your thoughts on that? You're on the ground, you're working with business owners, you seeing the struggles within the business structure, but now you're also working with human beings. So now you have this human being in front of you. What, almost want to say, psychosocial stuff do you pick up on in behavior, in thoughts, in limitations on this business flourishing even more? Because you can come with as many solutions as you could lay out there. And they can latch onto one of them, but you see blind spots, blockages, gaps, you know, limitations. What are some of the common denominators that I'm curious? I'm just going to be selfishly asking you now.
Yeah, so I'll touch a small part on the consumer side. It's something I read last night which made me quite excited. But if I have to touch base on what you're referring to, it is, and obviously I won't mention names, but some of my most successful clients are the ones that are the least involved in the business. Now I know that doesn't make sense.
Oh no, I want to hear this. No, it does, because I'm at that point now where the more I can be working on my business than in it, the more it's flourishing. Yeah. And I'm hoping that's what you're going to touch on, but go for it.
Yeah, so maybe the best analogy to use as an example to paint a picture is you as a business owner, you need to be in the treetops looking at what trees you need to cut down. You can't be down there in the trenches with the people executing your instructions, because by the time you get to the 100th tree, you might have gone down the wrong forest. So being at the top, understanding what's happening in the landscape, and then surrounding yourself with individuals that are highly equipped to make informed decisions with you. Now, what is happening more often, besides diversification, is groups are starting to form. So historically, the business model for some of the bigger fast food chains, and I'll use KFC as an example, is you don't necessarily make money with one KFC. You need 20, 25, 50 KFCs. It's quite interesting once you understand this space. There's probably about 20 companies that owns all the KFCs in the country.
Sure.
Now, it's happening now with the other businesses as well. So now a guy doesn't just own one garage, he needs to own at least 5 to make a proper living out of it. But now, managing 5 garages is a lot more difficult. So now you need a financial accountant in your corner that you can trust. You need a retail operations manager in your corner that you can trust. So sharing that responsibility with people that knows what they're doing is actually going to give you the capacity so that you can go to the top of the tree and understand, okay, in which direction are we going, whilst obviously giving very credible and thoughtful instructions down to the bottom.
A lot of trust.
A lot of trust. And that's why I'm saying the people that are the least involved in the business, they know what's going on. They're just not as involved with the detail.
From a capacity point of view, their hands aren't in the thick of things. Their claws aren't in the day-to-day. They're in that oversight, in that, I want to say, leadership role, where they're taking that business to the next level, and scaling. I just think that that's a very healthy way of running a business, and I've seen it over the years in big organizations that I've been involved in, where you cannot just have it as a one-man show, a one-woman show. You need to build team. You need to be able to release and delegate. You need to be able to, go and, like you said, be on those treetops and see what's next, forecasting, casting that vision. I can't stop it. I'm just a visionary, so I can't switch it off. So I know that I have to build team to be able to do that. And thankfully, I've had years of experience of doing that. But it's not everybody's forte.
Yeah.
People think that it's a lot easier to keep a business going well and expanding, but there's no longevity in this. But in their mind, if they keep it just to them and they did everything, it will be done right, it would be done quicker. But then they start realizing I'm burning out, then they end up sitting in the chair in the tiny room. And I'm like, you can't do this for another 10 years. It's not sustainable. What are you going to do? So I have to kind of impart also my entrepreneurial side, my business sense. As a therapist, I'm actually imparting that also. I'm like, you're getting double for your money here, you know.
Yeah.
So just to kind of wrap that up, what are your last thoughts before we get into the other, you know, the other points and the other thick of things on that whole stepping away, being on the rooftops? It's scary for a lot of people. Growth is scary for a lot of people. There's fear there. I see that a lot in therapy with entrepreneurs, as small as what their business is, and it might be growing rapidly. They unfortunately can a lot of the time be the hindrance to their growth, is that fear, is that being scared, that anxiety. So as we were speaking in our last point about this being scared and having that fear and having that scarcity mindset or mental blockage when it comes to not only the financial side of your business, but you know, at the same time, Gerhard, we were talking about leading into what we're going to speak about now, which is the innovation side. Generally, if your mind is not in a healthy space, if it's not seeing the possibilities, and we speak about that a lot in our therapy process towards the end, when clients have a lot more clarity, then we speak about the possibilities in their lives. But now obviously this episode is very much speaking in a business context, but there's human beings involved in that, and that's why I love that we're mashing the two up. But you know, just speaking back into it, what have you seen has been a blockage mentally with some of these business owners, be it behaviorally, in their thoughts, maybe even emotional? I've come to realize that a lot of financial, maybe not the best decisions ever, have been fueled by the wrong emotions. So emotions play into that, and we've even touched on it in previous episodes where physical health plays a huge part in having that mental clarity to kind of tackle the big things, the tough things, which is as your business grows. What have you noticed when I speak about that whole scarcity mindset or that lack mindset being a hindrance? Now that we've wrapped up the financial side and stepping into the innovation, because innovation is something that you know a lot more about in the business space, and I know you more in the retail business space, but there's still organizational business structures that nowadays, 2023, you were talking earlier about AI, just throw it out there. Like, what do you want to talk about innovation and opening up our minds? Like, stretch my mind, because you've taught me quite a bit about AI, and I've used some of the platforms and the apps and the I almost want to say gadgets that are out there to grow the tiny room as a private practice, as a business. But what were you thinking of when you said, hey, I want to talk about the innovation side and thinking out the box with SMEs? Like, go for it.
Yeah, so I think, and there's a lot of examples in the past that can show where organizations have been kind of like an ostrich with their head in the sand. Mr. Video or Blockbuster is a good example.
Yes.
Kodak is also a very good example.
Yeah.
Now these organizations, or I want to say bosses of those organizations, not leaders, might have been so focused on either making profits or just kind of like wanting to let the money roll in, because it has been rolling in without a little bit of an effort. Complacency, and other businesses or other leaders around them started seeing other avenues, and they are excelling. And Netflix is a great example. Anybody that owns a smartphone is a great example. That see how Kodak obviously got very quickly into the back seat. If these business owners are not giving themselves time, not just once a year by taking a 2-week break, times throughout the week, times throughout the day, where they are switching off, doesn't mean that they're not working. They're just giving themselves the freedom to let their creativity flow. So not being involved in the detail of this guy took leave 1 day extra this year and that person wanted us to stock extra chocolates on the convenience side.
That's funny.
Getting out of that detail and letting the ideas flow is going to open up an avenue that sometimes they don't even know existed.
I advocate, and I'm so glad you said this, and I know my clients that are watching are saying, oh my gosh, they're hearing Lucinda's voice in their head. We speak about white space, we speak about brain dumping, we speak about nothing boxing, and I practice that in the week. It's part of my lifestyle. I can't not do it because I've got a very unique brain. My personality is only 4% of people, so it can be very overwhelming for some people, but sometimes it gets overwhelming for me, and I sit with these amazing ideas, and it can get clogged up. And I actually have notebooks everywhere. My husband always says I'm killing the trees, and like, why can't I just do it on sticky notes on my laptop or my phone? I'm like, I need a pen and paper. So I write down notes, I brain dump, and then I consolidate. And my intern also laughs because I sit with piles of notes, but I go and I put it all on Google Docs, and I'll share it with who I need to. But it's literally ideas, and it's like, as you said, when you're sitting, you're reading a book, and ideas are coming to the fore, or you're watching a program, or you are just relaxing with a cup of coffee, sitting on your balcony, looking at a bird in the tree. You know, like the weirdest things will come to your mind, and you cannot lose that. You know, we were laughing earlier saying voice note yourself, or make a note, and I say to my clients, they've got a notebook, write down everything you observe. Like, nothing is useless to me. Any feedback I get in a session, I have done this a long time, I will take amazing things out of it, and I can pinpoint the core issue of somebody's challenge, or I see a blind spot and a gap. And I'm like, I can draw it out, I'm like, oh my word. Be it in business, and I mean, you probably did see that. I mean, you were saying about leaders doing this. Okay, managers and leaders are two very different things, by the way. Different episode. But doing that throughout the week, and clearly you practice that, I would think, because you wouldn't tell people, hey, do this, and if we don't do it, I don't advocate for that. I think it's not fair to be such a hypocrite like that. But when you are exercising that yourself during the week, and you've seen other leaders do that, what have you seen over a year period or 2 years period as you walked a journey? Have you seen that they have thought out the box even more when they start having some ideas? Or are some people just like so ostrich head in the sand where they'll be like, okay, Gerhard, I'll see you in another 2 years time, and then they don't maybe go down that journey? But it's a bit of a half and half, I'm sure.
Yeah, you know, definitely, like I've said earlier, the clients that I've got that are excelling are the ones that are less involved in the business, and they are partnering with individuals that have their own expertise, but then having the flexibility and the capacity to listen to consultants like myself. I'm not the only one, there's a lot out there in the market that's trying to add benefit to businesses. They are excelling, and not just in the current industry where they've got a lot of experience. They are seeing trends happening, and they are investing in other businesses. I mean, we've got clients that will be in the food retail space, FMCG, so bread, milk, sugar, those type of things. But now they see an opportunity in the takeaway market, for argument's sake. And a lot of ingenious ways of doing it. Don't put down a brick and mortar, because that comes with a lot of building costs. Or if you are renting, you need to now go into contract with the landlord. Put down a very bespoke container, and you can test out the market in that area.
I love it.
Once that takes off, then put brick and mortar, lift up that container, put it into a new area, test that market. But these retailers that are thinking outside the box, these business owners that are thinking outside the box like that, are then kind of like exponentially growing, because the more that creativity gets ignited, the more ideas pops up, and then they also expand their networks, because they're touching base on these various industry leaders. Where in this case it's a container manufacturing specialist, but he's got 12 other ideas because that's his space. And hey, you should have seen what this guy did. Oh, but I love that idea, I'm also going to do it.
It's catalyst. It's just constantly stimulating and opening up more boxes. And I always say, because I learn a lot from my clients, like, we don't know everything. And I've learned so much to not only enhance our therapy process and bring like things into it, but also upgrade, you know, on certain tools and techniques. Options. I love to give people options on how to, you know, apply a tool or a technique. There shouldn't just be one way of doing it. There might be 2 or 3 options, and it just being in the room with a human being that is in a world of their own, in a network of their own, in an industry of their own, And learning from that has made me a better therapist, a better person, a better entrepreneur. And I just think to myself, you get to meet such amazing people quite often. And like you said, they are, hopefully they're diverse enough to go into all these pockets and open up their minds. And then they come and kind of consolidate it and vomit it out to you and kind of regurgitate that information to you. How does this not excite you on a daily basis? Because I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh my word, the creativity's coming through. I love being creative in my own weird way. I'm not the arty person, so my creativity comes out in a very different way, by the way. It's more in thoughts and systematic, and like I say, gamifying business and growing businesses to not only help people, but the money that we make is to then give it back to, you know, assist other businesses. And you were saying about network. That's a word that I'm very passionate about. I think network has maybe been thrown around a bit too much. Partnership is also not a bad word, but for me it's doing life together. It's that whole village concept again, where it takes a village to raise the tiny room. You know, all our businesses, it takes a village, and we need strategic partners. We need a great support system, that trust. So feeding into the whole network side of things, coming from the innovation side, thinking out the box, diversifying in your product offerings or just investments in businesses, feeding now into the support system side. On what scale do you see it? Because I feel like mine is totally small scale compared to what you see, where the tiny room has a mental health care practitioner network. And also we've got the entrepreneur side, so I run an entrepreneur network. So I keep the worlds kind of sort of separate, but I have also specialized in my masters in integration, you know, integrating services. So be it mental health care services, be it social services, business services, it really doesn't matter. I've come to realize that my businesses, me as a person, anything that I put my hand to has flourished because of the relationships that I've built, which has been my network of over 11, 12 years that I've created in different industries, private, public, non-profit. I've been in them all. And I kind of feel if I didn't have that, I wouldn't be where I am today. But now my network is growing even more because I am thinking out the box, bringing in innovation, bringing in an SEO expert, search engine optimization, by the way, if you don't know what SEO is. Bringing in an SEO expert, bringing in a social media marketing expert or two, having an intern on board, having those fresh eyes from a student perspective, being younger. My intern's younger, okay, I'm not going to give my age away, but my intern's younger, so she sees things differently. Having a counselor who happens to be a mom of 2 small kids. You know, everybody brings a different perspective, and we all together are that village. But what scale are you seeing it in the whole SME world? Like, is what I'm saying happening there?
Yeah, no, it's so, I get so excited when you're talking about these things, and I need to now backtrack, because I've got like 12 points I want to touch on.
No, try, go for it, it'll all come out eventually.
The first thing is, you mentioned about your employees that are younger than you. Something that's starting to happen is, we all know a mentor. Somebody that's most of the time older than you. They've in the retail business world, they've got a lot of business experience, and you can learn a lot from them. The experts or advisors are saying, you know what, you need to get a reverse mentor as well. That's somebody that's probably in their early 20s, they understand AI and all of these new technology trends better than anybody, and you're learning a lot from them. So you've got the benefit of being the middle child.
Yeah, that's good.
You're getting the best of both worlds, so that's quite important. Then secondly, you talked about innovation, and I think, touching on what we've talked about earlier, if you are not looking at what's happening out in the world, not just South Africa, across the world, because there's a lot of things that happens in America or in Europe that we can actually get kind of like a head start on what we can do on this side. If you're not looking into those technologies and solutions, you are going to miss out. We always say, if you're standing still, which means you're not growing, you're actually busy dying. And by the time you wake up, one of your competitors has come past you and they're just excelling. So it doesn't mean that you need to be an expert in AI. You don't need to be an expert in solar. You don't need to be an expert in refrigeration. Now, all of these are topics that are quite prevalent in the retail space.
I can imagine, yes.
Because you need to save, because either you need to save because you don't want to burn all the diesel in your generator, so you need to invest in solar, but that comes at a cost. Which do I use? Do I put in an inverter? Do I put in batteries? How many solar panels, etc.? You don't have to be an expert, but you need to trust that business or that person in the village that they can come and give me the best advice that's going to work for me. The same with the guy from the refrigeration perspective. One of the solutions that we kind of like advocate to retailers is putting in doors in front of all of your open fridges.
Oh, brilliant.
You know, when you were small and you left the fridge door open, your mom would scream at you saying, hey, close
and you're
it.
opening it too often, stop going in the fridge.
Now you've got this massive freezer in the supermarket and it's completely open. The amount of money that you can save for refrigeration costs because those fridges are being closed off by doors, and we are seeing it at major retailers like Woolies and Checkers.
Yes, sort of Pick and Pay also, quite some time back now.
So now your smaller business owners are also benefiting from that. Plus, apparently the old ladies loves it because the aisles aren't that cold anymore.
Oh yes, I know, you get quite cold going up, that's true.
But now all of a sudden you become an expert in a number of fields as a retailer. It's not just like the old days where you just need to stock shelves and make sure that your cashiers are being paid and you've got a business boom. Now you need to be a solar expert, you need to be a refrigeration expert, you need to be an advertising expert because you've got a lot of advertising revenue sitting in your store that you can capitalize on. That's something that we're advocating quite aggressively this year. These type of things, and having those advisors in this village is what you need to tap into. But you need to have the space and you need to have the mental health and wealth at the same time.
That willingness needs to be there.
Exactly.
That willingness and that being intentional. That intention needs to be there to think out the box. And I feel that that scarcity mindset has been a huge blockage. And in our performance therapy, we really try and break down that blockage of that lack or that scarcity mindset, because it brings about fear. It brings about being scared, and then keeping it very safe, keeping it very comfortable, and that's not longevity, and that's not sustainable. That's not a legacy. And so we advocate for it a lot through our therapy, where if we can sort out a lot of the choices and decisions and the mental space, it will come out into your actions, and your choices and decisions will be a much of better quality and more risky in a calculated way. You can make calculated risks, and then it comes out in your actions and your behavior. And do that new default setting often enough. I have seen after our 8-week therapy process, really, I'm not lying about this at all, after the first session I had a client who was trading better, because they had this edge taken off, this fear was taken off, and they were booming in their other two businesses. By session 6, they had streamlined and they had taken, I think they had like 4 businesses. They had narrowed it down to 3, and all 3 of them were now on par, where it was like legit, really taking up a lot of their time, and they also made room for their personal life. So they brought balance and living their best lives. Like there's no other way that we can put it. But before we go, just in closing, because there's so much we can get into, and you are going to be back. Gerhard's going to be back. We're going to get into one or two of these points a bit more in depth. Actually, all of our guests that we've had, we're just scratching the surface, and we're just kind of getting you all intrigued, starting to have you think a little bit out the box and reach out and engage and see what stood out for you the most, and then we can elaborate and flesh that out in the next episode in a couple of months' time. But just in closing, what is the main burning desire on your heart that you just wanted to get off your chest, knowing that you were going to be here today as a guest, to our viewers, when it comes to SME, when it comes to either mental health in that space, or being a business owner, or innovation or finance or anything that we've spoken about? What are the last few things that you would love for them to know?
Yeah, so I think besides being passionate about business owners, because I thrive in making them become a success, and that for some can be in a monetary way, for others it can be with the amount of businesses they've got, For others, it's the amount of employees that they've got. They're actually making a change. Obviously, from a mental health perspective, I encourage that on a daily basis, and that is everything from spending time with your family, having an active lifestyle, trying to eat as healthy as possible. And I'm thinking about it now, and it's something that I can see in the eyes and feel it in some of these business owners. The way that they speak to me is the ones that have opened up a door for their employees. And what I mean with that is the ones that are the most successful, enjoys what they do the most, has opened up the door for somebody that worked underneath them. And there's a handful of them that managers that they appointed back in the day as a cashier or a packer now owns their own garage.
Sure.
And they are still mentoring them. They're still helping them because they came through the ranks. Yeah. So as much as everybody needs to make a living and they want to try and have a mentally healthy life while they're doing that, I think what the world needs is business owners that wants to open up the door for somebody that is working under them or somebody that they know, that didn't have that opportunity.
People focused.
People focused.
You are very much people focused, and obviously our whole therapy process is people focused, and I can't be anything but a person-centered human being. Like, it's people first. If we are each whole and happy, we can tackle anything. And if we've got knowledge and we've got means and we've got experience, we've bumped our heads a lot of the times, we can help people save some time maybe. But I feel that when you bring all kinds of people together, and that diversity really does bring strength, and I see it time and time again in every aspect of my life. And to have a boss or a manager or a business owner who is approachable because they are people-centered and are wanting to lift you up and raise you up and develop you to be released to go and run your own business, that's the type of person that I want to work for, because they see something in you. They see that there's gold enough to invest their life, because every hour that a mentor gives to me, I know that they're giving me their life, their breath, They could be doing something else. So I take it seriously. They're giving me effort. They see something. And it's the same with me. When I mentor other people, it's time that I'm giving them, and they know that I won't just do it for anybody. I'm very wise with my time. Quite ruthless, actually. So when I'm booking it into my schedule, so if they're doing that, it is something to really cherish and celebrate, and also it's wise for the business owner to do that, because I want to copy and paste myself all the time. I'm wanting there to be more tiny rooms nationally, internationally. I want everybody to access a tiny room and have our framework of counseling and therapy and have their lives completely changed. But it starts with me copying the framework and having the right person, the right mental health care practitioner to facilitate and apply that framework. Because if you aren't the right person and you're not in the right headspace to be that open door or raise that person up, and that intention, that willingness isn't there, then it's probably not going to come about. It's not going to maybe be seen, or not as well, to the point where they're owning a garage or whatever. But Gerhard, just in closing, I want to say thank you so much for hanging out with me in the tiny room. We are going to put Gerhard's details underneath the video so you can contact him directly. But thank you. We really appreciate it. I know that you've touched so many people's lives. I know that they've got tons of questions for you now, because I do. So I'm going to go make some notes. And next time you're on, I'm pretty sure we're going to unpack some great stuff that our viewers have gone and engaged and commented and said, hey, I want to know more about this. But I mean, if you are on Instagram, if there's any other way people can get hold of you, it will be in the description underneath the video. But thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. Just any encouragement, any love, just comment underneath. Please like the video. Share the video. We don't want to keep this information to ourselves. Let's go and encourage the world with Gerhard's amazing gold that he unleashed to us in this episode today. And yeah, just go and click the notification button so that you don't miss out. Every Thursday at 7 we release a new podcast episode. And yeah, just share. We love you guys, and we'll see you really, really soon. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.